All right, Ms. Black, I'm here to follow up with you regarding our observation from the other day. I want you to talk to me about moments where you felt successful in this lesson.
Okay. Moments where I felt successful were just using the data tracker. It was very easy to use and just convenient. Also with the relationship between addition and subtraction when addition came first. Subtraction first, we struggled a little bit, but where addition came first, it was really, the kids really grasped that, and then the tape diagram.
Okay, great. So I know that your initial action step was for you to actually utilize the CFU tracker and to make adjustments in the moment to clear those misconceptions that scholars had before they made it to the exit ticket.
Right.
So talk to me around CFU question number 1. We initially, developed that out, worked together on selecting the appropriate questions. Talk to me about the data that you received from question 1.
Okay, on question 1, I had about 10 students who were on track, and then I had 5 who were not. And the problem was just identifying the adding and subtracting together, and not wanting to just add or subtract. So I had 5 students who just the misconception was wanting to do either or and not both.
Okay, so how did you go about addressing that misconception in the moment?
Okay. I kind of talked about number sentences and things they may have known from 5th grade and how to move to each step. And I also looked at one of the examples and how we built I went back to one of the examples where we built the 6 plus 4, and then we subtracted 4 off. So they know that we were doing all 3 steps. So we had 6, added 4, and then subtracted 4.
Okay, so you found it beneficial to actually recall a prior example that you had covered with the kids to clear the misconception.
Yes.
Okay. Talk to me around question number 2. I know this is one of our last CFU questions before the exit ticket. So how are you feeling there?
A little iffy. Question number 2 was harder because it was variables. I had about 8 students who were on track and 7 who were not. And then it was more of them trying to make up a number for the number, kind of like what we talked about before, and not really identifying that variables are like numbers and we're going to treat them the same. So I just tried to make sure with those students we looked at like if you had this amount, or just giving them some better examples and supporting them that way.
Did you find that it was helpful for you to actually create your exemplars ahead of time and know exactly what you were looking for in the moment as you checked your understanding?
Yes, I think that was very helpful, and then us honing in on which one we really needed to make sure that they can master the exit ticket.
Okay. So, what was a holistic misconception that you pulled out from your classroom in this lesson?
The subtraction first, with the tape diagram and how to use that and add it back, and what that looks like.
Okay, so we're gonna actually conduct a stack audit with the exit tickets, your exit tickets from that lesson. I want you to show the audience your data tracker, what it looks like when it's actually checked up, some notes from the teacher. Okay.
Got a little something on the back. Okay.
All right, so based off of what the data tracker is telling you, you said your kid struggled initially throughout the lesson on the subtraction piece. So we're going to see if that's the same misconception that they carry with throughout the exit ticket. And if so, we want to plan on how we're going to address that misconception in our next day's lesson.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so let's look at our first lesson. We have 3 categories. We have on track, approaching, as well as not on track. So we're going to try to bucket these really quick into these 3 categories. All right, so the first one, what do you notice about that? The directions say draw a tape diagram to represent each of the following number sentences. This scholar
had only put numbers like a subtraction, put in parentheses, maybe referring back to 5th grade. So that would be not on track.
Okay. I would agree. Yep, not on track.
Okay. For this one, I got tape diagrams. The scholar knew to add the tape diagrams, but maybe struggled with taking it away again on this first one. And then on the second one, they knew to take away, but didn't do the addition of.
Okay, so what would you say is a misconception around that one?
Completing the or doing the inverse operation afterwards, or understanding their identity.
Okay,
Yeah.
so understanding identity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and where would you classify that scholar?
I might put them on approaching.
Okay.
Because
and why do you say approaching?
They have the first step, which is the tape diagram and putting or adding on, or in the case of the second one, subtracting. They know to do the initial, but it's coming back with that last part of the question.
Okay.
That may need to just push them over to on track.
Okay, so go ahead and put that in approaching. I agree.
Okay. I would say this student just has a tape diagram. Nothing is kind of labeled. So it's kind of hard to identify if they even understand it.
So let's go deeper. And so this is what she's referring to. So the scholar just drew the tape diagram here, which the directions do tell us that we want our scholars to draw the tape diagram. So here you have to really stretch for some information. So like, did this scholar use the appropriate amount of units for the tape diagram? Okay, so that's evident. So the scholar had some knowledge around, like, I needed to have 3 and
then added 5, which you can see. You can see they initially started with 3 and then added 5 for the lot. So.
Okay, and then they didn't attempt the next problem, or they didn't show us any labeling here, but they used the appropriate amount of boxes for our tape diagram. What about down here at the bottom when they didn't have to draw a tape diagram?
They actually were on track. Yeah.
So what would you say the misconception is for this scholar?
Tape diagrams.
Yeah, we need to work more with tape diagrams with the identity property. So where would you put that scholar?
Approaching.
Approaching, good job.
All right, so the next one we have some bar diagrams, and it's kind of like they're doing the bar diagrams in operations. So they start out with 3. Do I need to show it?
Yeah, you can show them.
They start out with 3, and then they know to add 5 with the bar diagram and subtract 5. And it's like they're also doing the
operations
operation as they go. Yep. So I could easily, I see that they got it down here, variables they're struggling with, but here with the subtraction, they knew, okay, I'm taking this out and then adding it back, and they ended up
with the breakdowns. Yeah, so I think they have a solid understanding of the tape diagrams and even like how to apply the operations to them, which goes back to the standard. What the standard was calling for. So I definitely think they have it there. But what do you think about this part here?
Down here, the variables are the
the fill in the blank with the variables?
Yeah, fill in the blank with the variables are what they are struggling on. I think just as they used up in number 1, they used in the ones with the numbers, like actually doing the math and doing 65 minus 15 or plus 15 and then subtracting 15 to see if they get 65.
Got it. So where would you classify that scholar?
I could probably classify them as approaching due to the variables.
Okay, yeah. I agree.
Okay. This one is similar.
Speed it just.
Speed it up. Okay. Yeah. So I would say this one is similar boxes. We can say I'm going to put them in approaching just because of their variable choice as well.
Okay.
The next one, I see that they know how to do the tape diagram. They did understand the variables, so I can actually probably put them in on track.
Okay.
All right. This one is the same. They did the math and actually physically taken away. I see that they understand, especially with the variable, so maybe putting them on track. They're actually taking.
Oh, okay. They use.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And you can show them that one.
Okay.
Like what the kids did there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this one, I think they were confused about like for the first part they do have the tape diagram, but they're variables. are incorrect at the bottom. They actually substitute in numbers as opposed to using variables.
Okay.
And this
Where
one,
did you put them?
approaching.
Approaching.
This one, variables okay. And they have the tape diagram and physically kind of circling what they know that their answer is for this top one, and then Xing out what they're kind of taking away. So I will put them on track.
Okay. We'll stop there.
Okay.
All right. So here's your data so far. So I want you to talk to me about what will you do if this is all of your data for your class. What are your next steps as far as addressing those misconceptions that we came up with, that we pulled out from our exit ticket data?
I would probably do a do now with a mini lesson that helps with them doing the identity with tape diagrams, and then also including variables and how to do tape diagrams with variables and identifying the part about variables being variables and not numbers.
Okay, so if I had one problem that I could use that would clear all of this misconception up, what could it possibly be?
It could be one of the ones from the exercise, where you're filling in the blank with the variables and also making broad tape diagrams.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, I definitely agree. You can draw what that would, write what that would look like, the problem.
So I could say, let's see, D minus, because I want to make sure they're doing the subtraction first. D minus B. I won't put plus. They're going to put something. I think that's what it looks like. It's going to give me D.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, you can see, I'm going to write it down here.
Yep. And I would just go ahead, you can go ahead and get it a plus.
Or even filling it all the way in and then just having them do the tape diagram.
Yeah, I think definitely we want to leave a blank because that was an issue. We do want to push them, so once you leave a blank with the subtraction first, we do want to push them to actually use a tape diagram because that was another issue.
Yeah.
And I think us actually checking for understanding around
Should I
this
put
piece.
this here or no?
Yeah, you can put that there. Us actually checking for understanding around this piece will actually help us to clear the misconceptions that our kids are actually having, and you can do this as a do now.
Okay.
Yep. Alrighty, so your next steps, I want you to actually do a problem like this with the kids, like go through one. You can actually go through one with the numbers if you want to.
Okay.
Numbers, and then push them to do this part.
Okay.
I want you to use the instructional technique of show call. So where you actually go pull like an exemplar response, and even one where a kid, may have solved it incorrectly, so that they can see and actually talk and use student discourse to actually tell you like where the students made errors so that they're learning from their own mistakes.
Yeah.
So the next time we actually come back, I'm coming to your class again to just follow up to actually see this step implemented, where you actually, revisit like these misconceptions that came about. And I want to actually see you like doing the show call, instructional technique so that kids can see where they're making errors so they can kind of self-correct.
Okay.
Yep. Feeling good?
Yes.
Good job. Thank you for implementing that action step on using your tracker, and continue using your tracker so that we can make those in the moment adjustments as needed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.